You attended Boston University, and while in Boston, you started doing stand-up comedy. How rough were the early days for you in the Boston comedy scene?
Well, I got beat up on stage one night. I was uh, I was on stage, and it was a Jewish singles night. It was before there was Tinder and J Date and all that. They sometimes the comedy clubs would have a singles night, and this was a Jewish singles night. And so all these girls come in, and these are like Japs from Long Island with the hair up in the potato chip clip and the oversized sweatshirt and lots of makeup. And then the guys were all like, pre-med students from Harvard and BU. And they all came into this club called Stitches. And then this guy wanders in, and he's Israeli, and he's a cab driver from Israel, and he's just moved over here, and he hears that there's a Jewish singles night, so he's going to go meet a Jewish woman, maybe make her his wife. And so he comes in, and he sits in the front row by himself, and he realizes very quickly as he talks to these girls, the last guy they're interested in is a cab driver who's actually from Israel. They want a rich guy who's from Annapolis, Maryland, whose father's a lawyer, and so he's got a bad attitude now, and he starts heckling me, and so I'm shitting on him. He's heckling back at me. It becomes a standoff, and then finally his like Middle Eastern machismo kicks in, and he looks at me and he says, "Nothing more." And then I said, "Yeah, let me know when your friends get here." And he just gets up, fist clenched, gets on stage, comes at me, and I've got the microphone, which is, one of these old school microphones with like the steel mesh on the
Yeah,
top.
yeah,
It's like a weapon from Game of Thrones. And he comes at me, and I hit him across the forehead with the microphone, and he's got blood coming down his face, and he gets me in a headlock, and he starts doing some Krav Maga Israeli military shit,
yeah.
and he's like spinning me around by my head, and I remember my legs were kicking tables, and people were diving out of the way, and people are cheering, and then finally, like the bouncers come up on stage and they drag the guy out. My neck is completely tweaked. I can't move my neck. And so the show stops, obviously, and they set up the tables. They buy everybody new drinks, and then the club owner, Harry Conforti, is standing next to me in the back of the room, and he goes, "Okay, Fitzsimmons, you got 5 minutes left." And they send me back up on stage, and so I walk on stage, and it's Boston, so I get a standing ovation because it's my first standing ovation, because they'd rather see a fight than a comedy show any night in Boston.
Put them both together, and that's a perfect night.
It's a perfect night. And so and you're getting laid, they're all getting laid. And
Yeah.
so they gave me a big round of applause, and then they finally calmed down. I looked at them and I go, "All right, who's next?" Like I hadn't just gotten my ass kicked in front of 250 people.